the railroad is going over. The next, it's hard to envision, but this where this cross section is taken is just west of the intersection. But this is our railroad bridge going over top of Coit.
How high are we talking?
Top of rail to top of roadway is about 21.5 feet. And then there's I know it's not necessarily in this group, but there's a sound wall right here. Moving on at AFG number 5.
So just so I understand, so opposite of Hillcrest, I guess not opposite, but where Coit is today, it's going to be 21.5 feet above.
The railroad bridge is, yes. That's the top of rail. The structure will vary a little bit to the sides of it, but comparing top of rail now to top of rail then is 21.5 feet.
Okay. Like if you're, just so I understand, because if you're at Coit, like how high is the bottom of the railing?
We have a minimum on that. I think it's 16.5 feet.
Okay, so then
that would be the underside of the bridge structure to the top of asphalt.
Okay, so the underside of the bridge is 16.5 feet, and then you're going to add another, what have you, 15 feet on top of there. So it's like going to be like a 30. It's going to be up there then.
As far as to the top of wall?
Top of train.
Yeah, top of train.
Top of train, yeah.
Okay, got it.
Any other questions on this? So some of you have seen the next few slides, but these are the options that we've shown here. But before I get into that, we have adjusted the finish on the wall, the sound mitigating wall, which would also be the Betterment wall as well, based on comments we've heard with regard to graffiti, and if graffiti were to ever occur, the fractured fin finish that we had been showing previous meetings is much more difficult to remove graffiti. This bush hammer finish allows for graffiti removal much easier. It's not as porous. The fractured fin, I think, actually had about 1.5 inches, almost 2 inch deep recesses in there. So this is much smoother, less porous, if you will. So again, so some of the options just in more of a visual or photo aspect. So down on the bottom right, this is what mature trees at 35 foot on center would look like approximately. And then this would be the planting islands, shrub islands, however we've named it here. It's named a couple different ways, but just to keep it kind of lower to the ground.
Did you happen to know how long the trees would take to grow to that size once you started planting? How many years it would take to look like that?
I'm not 100% sure. As we discussed earlier, we verified those would go in as a 6-inch caliper tree. These over here are probably, they look like a 12 plus caliper. I'm the furthest thing from an arborist. I'm just a railroad knuckle dragger guy, so.
Let's bring this K. Cook to August 15th. For one of the landscape.
Okay. Did you catch that? We'll bring the landscape architect with us.
And a sound engineer?
Probably not.
Because we've had sound questions.
Sure. As we explained earlier, the sound questions are highly technical. We want to make sure that people who did the noise analysis are reviewing their material, responding thoughtfully, and making sure everything aligns with the FEIS. Don't want people standing up, working from memory or guessing on the spot. So that's why we've set up this sweep up all the sound questions, then we get through August 23rd, give them some time to answer it, no more than 30 days, and post every question and answer in writing.
And you don't expect any more sound questions to come out, which would mean you want to bring a sound engineer to a couple of meetings?
That would be the first wave. If more questions come in, we'll be doing it. So we respond to all the questions.
I just had a quick question about the 30. Is there an interlocal agreement signed? Like, how, you guys just say it's not going to be run, but how do we know that?
There is, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah.
There's not an ILA signed.
I've already
Yeah.
answered that question, Brian, and we're working on a written response to that same question that you will get on August 2nd. Back to you.
So there's no ILA, but you guys, just so I understand, there's no ILA, right? But you guys just say the freight's not going to be run. Is that correct?
DART is working towards negotiating an ILA with the city of Dallas.
Can they negotiate can they talk about the city of Dallas resolution? About like,
Matt is not informed on this issue.
Neither is Aaron.
Aaron's not informed on this issue. We've got your question. We're working on the written response, so you get both the written question and the written response by August 2nd. We won't address any more discussion on this topic tonight. We'll continue to talk about betterments because that's what this meeting is for.
I know, but I'm saying the city of Dallas resolution, the betterment budget was supposed to be a lot higher. So, like, it is relative, and 15-foot walls are supposed to be there, so I'm just saying all that stuff you're saying is not relevant. It is relevant.
We'll get you those answers.
I'm just saying, like, I have answers since like May 23rd and then June 27th, and then you guys say this date. Like, I have no idea if you're going to answer the questions or not, right? So, like, is there one real way to get an answer, like a definitive way to get an answer?
So the truth is, you answered question, you asked questions on May 23rd.
Okay.
Those responses have been sent to you.
Okay.
You asked questions on June 20th. Those answers have been sent back to you. You asked questions on June 21st. We're working on those answers. You'll get those on August 2nd. You also asked questions on June 27th.
Okay.
We're working on those answers. You'll get that on August 2nd.
Okay.
You also asked questions last week.
Right.
We're working on those questions. We'll respond to those next week.
Some of my questions from May were not answered, but I resent them. So.
Okay. So as part of residential adjacency landscape mitigation, visual landscape mitigation, there will be trees at 120-foot centers placed out there, regardless of the betterment or betterment funds. So if an option is trees at 35 foot on center, these are already out there. The trees at 35 center will be in addition to these. Just wanted to show that. And then as far as the end treatments that were shown, these are a few options that we think we heard from the group. Just, I guess, kind of beautification of the edge of the roadway into the sound wall or to the right-of-way area. And that is all I have for my portion of the presentation.
Any other
Any
questions?
questions? Yes,
Just
ma'am.
one quick question. When you switch out the bush hammer concrete base, do we know, and maybe when I have to submit written, what is the difference in that in terms of sound absorption? I know from an esoteric thing, it's easier to remove with feet, but is there a difference in sound absorption between this and the original wall that we looked at?
I can't answer that technically. The first wall, both walls are in effect reflective walls. They prevent sound from going to the parcel or business, whatever. This is still a reflective wall.
So Aaron, you
Yes.
can answer that question.
Okay.
Because the finish is facing the neighborhood side.
Yeah.
The wall isn't changing on the sound generation side.
That's a good point. The fractured fin from the previous slideshows was smooth on the track side, fractured fin on the resident side. this bush hammer is smooth on the track side and bush hammer on the resident side. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
I just had a quick question. I think it was pertaining to the prior meeting. You guys have the hike and bike trail going from one side of Campbell to the other side of Campbell. So that means not only do you have to cross Campbell, which is like tons of 2 huge streets of traffic, then you also have to cross like a train track with 2 trains. Like, how did that, like, why is it going back and forth across the streets?
So the trail is still at a 10% definition right now. It's not in our contract, it's not in DART's contract, if you will, just yet. It's very, very much preliminary. That particular area you're talking about, the crossing from north to south occurs at a station at Knoll Trail.
No, I'm talking about, if you look at Campbell and like before Davenport, it crosses. Like you can look at group 2 and group 3 meetings, like I brought it up today. Like within our area, it crosses. So effectively you're gonna be biking down the street with kids, right? And then you're gonna be like, hold on, stop. You have to first cross like 2 huge streets on Campbell right there, and then you have to then cross a train track. Like, I'm just trying to understand like who builds these things?
We honestly, we do not know the outcome of the questions. It's at a 10% phase that the COG is working on putting together liaisons for each and every city, which eventually you'll be able to ask a particular person those questions, give your input, feedback, what have you. Right now, it's just at its infant stages. We just don't know that.
I have a question for you, since you do this. Like, this is costing like $50 million a mile almost, right? Would you do that per foot? It's like $9,000 a foot. Like, could you guys just not tunnel this through this whole area?
That's not a relevant question.
It's not a relevant question, Brian.
It's clearly a relevant question, because it costs $50 million per mile based off of the numbers. And you guys there's money going into this. I'm just trying to understand, can you guys tunnel it? Would it be cheaper to tunnel this through our whole area?
No.
Have you guys looked and cost that out?
We have not. Archer Western Herzog has not. That was not the project that we were asked to bid.
Can I add that to a question list to get that priced out by someone?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, any more questions? Because we're wrapping up and winding down. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
On DART's website, it says very specifically, there's no overnight parking, you park at your own risk. DART has promoted this whole line of getting people to the airport. How are you going to go to the airport if you can't park your car at a DART station?
You can park it at Beltline in some stations.
That has security at night.
I can't answer that for sure. Do you have a question, ma'am?
Oh, yeah, I do, actually.
Okay.
How do we get our ballot IDs? I couldn't find mine last time I went to vote.
Okay, did you sign in out front? Did you already have it should have been,
I couldn't find any numbers.
it should have been right by your name.
Mine was.
Okay, we'll talk about this after, we'll chat. But we're looking at how we can build consensus and submit ballots. We're trying to do that online, trying to do it through various means. So we're going to get back with you on specifics for that. But by the 3rd meeting, ideally, which if you could click that presentation of options, that date is not accurate. That should be the 22nd. But we're going to confirm that and mail out invitations to that meeting. We don't know if that date will hold through or not, but I think the 23rd is a Friday. And so we'll get back with you on that. But we would hope that you would have your feedback by the 14th. And referencing all the meetings that we have upcoming, we have one in Plano on Monday. We have one in Carrollton next week, and then we have one in Cypress Waters in early August. The one for North Dallas is the 15th at Shelton School, as I referenced earlier. These brochures have all that information. You can also use, you can also use the comment card attached to this if you want to ask generic questions. We would hope that you would put them on this, but it doesn't matter. I mean, we'll take them and take your input and have it addressed later in September as David has referenced. Is it a feedback that, yes. This is the way to stay in touch. Please send the information to that Cotton Belt mailbox. First and foremost, that's the way we get most of these requests in, particularly if they pertain to betterments. So we hope you keep sending them in. We'll address them as we get them. Are there any other questions before we adjourn? Staff will be around to answer questions. Yes, sir.
I just had a timing question, right? So like the 15th is supposed to be this meeting where people can get questions answered, right?
Yes, sir.
And then you're, I think for this section, is the 23rd, I guess people are voting? Is that the slide before?
Ideally, whenever that meeting is, I think it's, we don't know for sure yet. It may be the 22nd, but we're kind of looking at different days to do meetings. So we'll confirm that when we send out the invite. But that meeting 3 ideally would be a voting meeting if the neighborhood is in agreement. If they're not, we'll keep coming until the neighborhood tells us exactly what you want.
Can I just propose just like something that's just logical and rational, that if, I would assume some meetings for groups before this are they're gonna cast a ballot before August 23rd,
Yes.
right?
Other groups will meet before that.
Or some before August 15th?
We have that date for you. You're showing up August 28th for the group tour.
We're showing August 28th for the workshop, so that,
And that's on the website.
okay.
I'm just saying be reasonable if whoever's voting for this area and you guys are asking people to go to the school on the 15th for people to be able to do these workshops after the 15th to get any questions that are outstanding answered, right? That would impact Betterments.
Well, we conduct a quarterly meetings to update the entire region, if you will, about the Silver Line and the Cotton Belt. That's the purpose of the quarterly meetings. They're generic, they're for the full public. The Betterments meetings are specialized for these segments along the corridor that we're trying to get input from so it can be incorporated into the design. So maybe I'm not understanding your question.
No, I'm just saying someone earlier had a sound question, right? So that a sound question could impact your ability to vote for a tree, or if you want to put that tree money to like a 15-foot wall, right?
That's possible.
I'm just saying it's reasonable, right? It's nothing outside of the ordinary. It's just if someone has a question on 15, I don't know when your other presentations are or meetings, so I guess I could look, but I'm just saying it's a logical sequence that it'd be fair if someone had a question about sound to get their question answered, at least in a queue before they then have to vote on an option.
We're keeping all of the options open in terms of responding to all questions. As David said, we're going to look into doing that and completing that all the way through late September. So that exercise is another option to address these questions, not just by the 15th, but through the latter part of the month as well of September.
And when do you guys plan on breaking ground on this project?
We're working on a plan to do that as we speak. These will be conducted by DART for the cities along the way.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
The hours of operation for the training program, so when does it start, when does it end?
The hours of operation, they haven't been finalized yet, but generally speaking, we're talking from like 4:30 in the morning till about 11:30, close to midnight. Does that sound accurate? Other questions?
Sorry, what were those times again?
Approximately 4 a.m. to 11:30 p.m.
Got it.
So about 4 to midnight.
Generally speaking, yes, sir. Other questions?
How frequently is the train going to come through?
During the peak, there'll be a train every 15 minutes
So 2 trains every 15.
In each direction.
in each direction. Off peak, be every 30 minutes.
And what are the peak hours?
Peak hours are like from 6:30 a.m. or maybe a little earlier to approximately 9:30.
And so you said, how many trains each hour?
9:30 p.m.?
a.m. I'm sorry, the AM peak is 6 to 9, the PM is from 3 to 6, generally speaking.
So at peak hours, how many trains did you say?
2 each direction in the peak,
2 each.
and 1 in the off-peak.
So 2 every 15 minutes and then every
2 every 30, yes. We had a question on fares last week, or in Plano, we don't know the charge for the fares yet. We're looking into that. Other questions? Betterments related ideally, yes.
After all this, if our property value goes down, who's responsible?
Hate to tell you, but it's never been demonstrated that a dark project caused property values to decline.
I have a realtor who commented that she can't sell houses, and the first question they ask is about the trains, and they sit longer on the market and they go for less. That's a realtor's talking.
I can't address that. You have a question, sir?
Just on the ILA agreement that could be signed, how could it be broken? Can you just change that?
We can't address the ILA. That's going to be coming next week.
Where do
Does everybody know that our city councilwoman is Kara Mendelson, and she has a coffee with Kara from 2 to 4 this coming Monday? And there's a city resolution that the Dallas City Council passed. You have concerns, go to the meeting, email her, call her. She's very receptive.
If there are no other questions, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. Staff will be around afterwards if you have some more questions. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
No, and that's the same maximum. I wanted to say, what is the maximum?
I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't know. I'm just saying.
What we told, the question came up Monday night in a big community meeting, and we said, you know, we think it's okay to park. If you're there for 3 days or longer, it's going to draw some attention.
We've done a lot of this here lately. Some of the trains. They clearly look amazing. You got 2 or 3 flat tires, broken windows, and just people that park. You know, so.
Thanks for checking.
I just looked it up real quick. I know this one. Just in case y'all need it.
We almost could have brought you up as our subject matter expert.
Take the train. International flights in here. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Appreciate it, sir. Yes, sir. You too.
Each one makes a better yeah, right, yeah, okay, well, that's good. I just want to double check. You can't force them in. I'm just, but we can do more.
Yeah, because this is cool, and that's just right the other side. They're cool, right? Yeah.
One, two, and three. We will have a sound engineer.
Even if they couldn't answer the question, they'd be a sound engineer to say, hey, that's what's out there.
Yeah, and we can't answer that. That's not our business. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
I've seen the turtles.
Shane, that's one thing.
I just want to nail down that door. Yeah, that means I had them. I've been looking at them. I've seen their website. Start like right, so they know the questions that we're they're probably going to be still helping people. We're going to get those responses out. But the noise isn't doing that's actually a good thing. Yes. And then they're visual, but then it's not the need to spend the right. But it's just hard because there's a lot that goes into that. I don't know the soil conditions. I don't know. It's just a basic general generic. Okay, yeah, something like that. Yeah, right. Right. Okay. Yeah. So quote me on it. No, but I get what you're saying. Stuff like that is something like good.
At least let them know.
Give them a rough idea, right? Because I think during the FEIS process, some of those things like that did come up, where they at least raised the question, or not
Maybe in the DEIS process.
yeah, and which the only difference was that it actually had all the questions and the responses with them.
Okay, yeah.
So some of that we do have to look into.
Okay.
But it's one of those things to where one is in the process for that anyway.
No, it's not,
We have
right.
a defined scope that we're moving forward with. They're using it.
Yeah, we didn't have any discussion about Betterments tonight, really.
No.
Buzzing out of your house to let the robots know eventually where to go.
I got to be here for a meeting on the morning.